What is going on, my friends? How are we doing? Make sure you subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. There's a GoLow channel. We separated it from football. We got the majors coming up, the PGA Championships in a couple weeks. Then we got the U.S. Open. PGA Championship at Aronimink, actually, when I worked for the Eagles. My brother came to visit me, and we watched. I remember watching Tiger Woods, actually. It was probably like 2011 or 12. We followed Nick Watney and Justin Leonard. Of course, it's pretty sweet. So that's here in a couple weeks. But we got a lot going on in the golfing world. We have LIV, which crazy stories last week, kind of piggybacking on that this week, that the Louisiana tournament has been postponed, a.k.a. canceled. Matt Fitzpatrick and his brother won the team event in Louisiana, ironically, where the PGA got a lot of love from the local politicians today as they were taking shots at LIV. But it was a really, really cool moment for a tournament that kind of sucked. And we got the Cadillac this week. Kind of a new event. Trump Doral hosted a PGA event, I think, from like the 60s up into 2016. They're back this year. I'm sure they're back for years to come. I don't really remember much, years ago watching it on TV, but I've watched a lot of guys, I think, over the course of last year played on YouTube. So I got some plays, going to get aggressive this week, gambling, Hard Rock Bet. So we'll talk about that. And we'll also take some questions at GoLowPod. At GoLowPod is the Instagram. Fire in those DMs. Easiest way to get on this golf podcast. Let's just start with LIV. Now, I think I have a unique perspective. Obviously, we did some advertising with them last year. And the event in Chicago, I flew out to Coward's house, stayed with them. Had a few cocktails, a few steak dinners, and we went to the event. And the majority of that event we spent with Scott O'Neill, the CEO, who was really, really impressive. I mean, I was blown away. I didn't know much about him, besides he being a Philly guy and taking over for Greg Norman. And he was really cool. Has a long background in professional sports, worked for David Stern and Josh Harris in money management and, sports operations in terms of the finance. So him taking the job for the Saudis, PIF, MBS, listen, he's not a golf guy. So it was kind of cool to just see this business guy who had a different perspective on it than me. I'm not a LIV guy. I don't think there's any room for it in a sporting world that is very niche. And let's face it, the only reason this thing exists, you can go back to the USFL in the mid-'80s. The reason they were able to get guys like Steve Young, Reggie White, Jim Kelly to sign was money, right? There was already an established league where people were making millions of dollars. So the only way to steal away star power, and I think the 80s football has some parallels to golf. This isn't some gigantic behemoth that is just unstoppable. I mean, PGA Tour, a good event, gets 3, 4, 5 million people. This is not pulling from Thursday Night Football getting 20 million people. Right? A good NFL game getting 20, 30 million people. Obviously, the playoffs, the Masters peaks at 18, 19 million. That's when Rory's, breaking a 10-year major streak, or Tiger Woods. Most of these Masters, most of these major tournaments, they feel pretty good if they could sniff 10 million people. Golf is a small segment of people that has a unique demo. Right? Obviously, their household income of the viewers is much higher than all the other sports. I think by an average of 50% higher, right? It's why when you watch a golf tournament, sometimes the advertisements are Mercedes or NetJets or Rolex is a big sponsor. You're not getting that when you watch an NFL game, a baseball game, a basketball game. So it's just a kind of a different world. But there just aren't that many people that are going to watch a golf event. So when this league splintered, the only reason they were able to start it, and this is before Scott O'Neill got involved, this was with Greg, was because they paid billions of dollars for the talent. The talent didn't actively just go, we think this is a better idea, despite them all saying this. It took Phil $200 million. DJ and Koepka, Cam Smith, and obviously Rahm, hundreds of millions of dollars. Right? It's reported that Koepka got over $100 million. DJ, $150 million. Cam Smith, $80 to $100 million. Rahm, by all accounts, was like $300 million. It was reported years ago that Tiger Woods could have got $700-800 million to join. He could barely play. This was post the ankle. So the money they were throwing around just was not only not realistic, no one else could even fathom. I'm talking hedge funds, venture capitalists. This would only exist with PIF. This would only exist with the Saudis. And I don't pretend to know anything about global politics, but clearly the shift, I think I've heard some people say it's easy for them to say the war in Iran. This was decided well before this ever started, that they were going to reallocate some funds in places that were not making money. And there's no way, given their expenses, that LIV could ever make money. And listen, Scott O'Neill tried to sell me on the team aspect. It's been a huge push by the LIV crew. And I understand it. Scott O'Neill's not a golf guy. Like, I've been watching golf most of my back to childhood. Tiger Woods is my favorite athlete. It's really the only activity / sport I was ever decent at. So it's like, this is not going to work. Golf's an individual sport. There's a reason in tennis, like when Serena and Venus play doubles, way more people watch than one of those two when they're playing singles. Like, no one's watching Nadal and Federer and these people play doubles. It's an individual sport. It's why all these events, beside maybe a couple, the Ryder Cup, the President's Cup, and the Zurich event that doesn't really get a very good turnout, golf's not a team game at the professional level, right? This isn't a member guest. And the other thing is, and Patrick Reed mentioned this when him and Koepka came back, it was, winning some of these events in the DP World Tour. Shotgun starts aren't doing it for me, right? Because part of golf is the ebb and flow of a day. That a guy that goes out 2 hours before the leader, all of a sudden he's leading the tournament. Well, that guy's on hole 12 and the leader's just teeing off. Or on the Masters on Saturday or Sunday, when Rory was up or Rory was down, it's like, well, he's got 13 and 15 and 16 coming up. He can make some hay. He can turn the tides because he got birdie holes. The guy leading the tournament's on hole 18. And that's not the way LIV Golf works because of the shotgun start. So they tried to throw a huge curveball, but the only reason they were able to throw it was they could get some of these guys to take an astronomical amount of money. And unlike Brandel Chambly, who's very emotional about this, who I think Brandel is as good as it gets anyone in TV that analyzes a sport. Basketball, football, baseball. I think he's the cream of the crop. Now, I don't agree. Like, he gets so emotional over the Saudis and everything they're doing, the sports washing. Like, I can't speak to EPL and the soccer teams that they're members. I don't watch those sports. But, like, you can't sports wash a league no one's watching. Now, once you go to the event, it was a cool vibe. And part of the reason the event I went to in Chicago, you get some people to show up because they do got Bryson DeChambeau. They do got Phil Mickelson. But for, as great as Rahm should be in theory, like, I don't think he's getting random people to the golf course. Bryson kind of has become a one-on-one. But, as they've reallocated these funds, and by all accounts, like, the funding is over. They had some earmark money. Whether he's going to continue to have access to that as the year goes on, only time will tell. Clearly, reading a couple articles on The Athletic about this situation is the local authorities or government or municipalities or whatever it's considered, it was putting in like $10 million to the venue to improve the venue and the infrastructure costs to host this tournament. And they're getting a rebate from LIV because LIV doesn't have the money to go through with it. And they just put it out a statement that it's about the heat and the midsummer. It's like, well, you were planning on it 3 weeks ago before this all broke. And I think this is the beginning of the end, which last week, once it came out that the funding was over, and this was always inevitable because I respect Scott O'Neill. Howie Roseman's good buddies with him. It's one of the things we talked about when I was with him. I think is, like, from a business standpoint, taking a job with these guys that have unlimited money, even if this fails, if you prove to be a loyal road dog and have a lot of energy and, good with business, like, they're going to have a lot of other ventures for you to operate in. But when he says that he wants to get other people to invest, I have a buddy that's in private finance and who was telling me a story a couple weeks ago when I was in Los Angeles. He kind of looked at the books at a very, very expensive club in California. He's like, bro, they don't make any money. That's the thing with golf. They have a lot of cash flow. I mean, some of these, major courses now that have 200, 300, 400 members that have, monthly dues at $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. The cash flow is huge, but their expenses are massive. So this is not golf is not a business from a course standpoint where you're like, God, they must be making millions of dollars. That's not really the way it works. And these events are so cost heavy that just an event, if you and I just ran an event, like it's really, really expensive. Like what Riggs and Barstool do with the Barstool Classic. They have to get so many sponsors. Now they make money because they get people to pay huge money to join the event. But the reason people are coming out to these events are because of the star power, which are only there because of the money and are not going to be there much longer. Now, I don't know exactly what's going to happen with Bryson. One of the rumors is that he is willing to just play in the majors and do YouTube golf. I definitely think that's on the table. Dustin Johnson, I could see him retiring. Phil's been MIA forever. Koepka's already back. I think the wild card would be Rahm, who, until the wheels completely fall off of this, just has too much money in the line. Like, you might as well ride this out. You've already taken all the shit. You might as well get as much as you can. But if the money stops and, hey, play an event, we don't know if you will be paid, like, guys just aren't going to play. And this league will crumble like all these other leagues historically have crumbled that have tried to compete. And I think USFL is probably the best example. And that was, I don't even think, I was like born in 84 and it was right during that time. And what happened? Within a couple of years, all those guys, Jim Kelly's the starting quarterback for the Bills, Steve Young's on the San Francisco 49ers, and Reggie White's on the Eagles. And I'm sure I'm missing other players that were prominent names. That's kind of the equivalent of this. Now, Liv and Piff always had more money than that operation, but all those teams went belly up. And this league went belly up because the spigot got turned off. And this is not, you couldn't go, like if I had, let's say I was a multi-billionaire and I love golf the way I do, and he called me, I'd be like, there's no way for this venture to ever make any money. Why wouldn't I just pick up the phone and invest in Bryson individually? I say, hey, when this thing goes, I'll help fund some of your ventures. But I don't want the league. I don't want the team golf. That doesn't interest anybody. And they've tried to make that a thing. And you can't, when you watch a playoff game, like Jokic right now, he's down in the playoffs in the first round. We have context. Like, he's one of the greatest players of all time. He's now playing a team. Their best players out. Their other backcourt mate just tore his ACL or Achilles. Like, we have context. Hey, if you lose game 6 in Minnesota, like, that's just a bad L. And we can relate it to other crazy L's in playoff history. Like Josh Allen going down this year in the second round. There's context there. When Matt Fitzpatrick takes down Scottie Scheffler a couple weeks ago in Harbor Town, like, that event's been going on my entire life. So winning that event, taking down the number one golfer, we just know it matters. That's part of sports, right? Winning your division in baseball means something. Winning a major, in tennis, in the French Open, the US Open, whatever. Winning a LIV event, beside making a ton of money, means nothing to anyone, including the players. So this league, which, some would argue never really mattered to the Saudis, and they just wanted in on this, and this was their fastest route because Jay Monahan shunned them. I eventually think, if I was a betting man, that whenever this thing disappears, that Brian Rolap and the PGA Tour and the powers that be will get in business with the Saudis. And the Saudis will be interested in getting into business with them. Now, how the player program of these guys coming back, how that works, who knows, right? Do I envision Koepka, what he had to go through, Bryson or Rahm cutting a $5 million check to charity? It feels like no, but you could also say $5 million to Koepka, if he just made $125 million to get back where he wants to play, isn't that big a deal? It's not as crazy as you're just paying $5 million. Now, there is no debate, and this has been talked about. This is the best thing that ever happened to all the players. Everyone became filthy rich. The guys that left and had the balls to take the arrows and just take the upfront cash for a league that didn't matter, that they took a lot of shit. And then everyone that stayed, everyone's like, they did a noble thing. And I do think early on, Rory's heart was in the right place and he fought for it. But financially, he benefited, him and Scottie. I mean, the two guys that played the best over the last couple of years, Scottie's made like $100 million the last 2 years. Scottie's like LeBron or Steph Curry or Patrick Mahomes. Like the amount of money, Matt Fitzpatrick, watching him being interviewed with his brother, I bet within a 5-year span, if he plays at this level,
over the last couple of years, this year and the next year, like you're talking about probably $80-100 million on and off the course. This was a sport that not that long ago, the purses in these same events went from 8 million to 20 million. So you went from winning 1.2 million or 1.5 million. If you win, you get 4.5. If you get like fifth or sixth, you're talking $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. So the financial windfall in a sport full of guys that were already relatively rich, if you were a good player, has taken them to a different stratosphere. And none of this exists if MBS's right-hand man, I think he's like essentially the CEO, Yasser, wasn't a lover of golf. He wanted to get in on the Masters. He wanted a part of, the infrastructure of pro golf. And they would not let him in. And he was lucky enough to have something that has unlimited money. And yeah, here's earmarked $5 billion. Go have fun. I guess that's not normal. Like, the other thing I've seen is like a lot of startups lose money early on. Well, I would imagine a lot of startups that are being funded, Ubers, any of the social media companies, Netflix, whoever, it's thinking you can get a market that either doesn't exist or is poorly run and control it. That was never going to be the case here because the PGA Tour had the market cornered. It's like, hey, let's start a football league, not a minor league, but a pro football league to go up against the NFL. People be like, are you an idiot? Like, even if the Saudis were interested, you'd be like, that's a complete waste of money. That's what this was. And to get people to come to these events, I forget, it was either a country music star or like the Lumineers or like every single event they have a massive, major musical act that plays after the tournament is done at like 6 or 7 at night. Like, what do you think they're paying for that? Like, they've had to manipulate all this to even garner to get sometimes their television ratings on Fox Sports like 50, 60,000 people. I love watching golf on television. Love it. Watch the majority of events every single year. Like even last week, which is probably the least watched event, I watched the majority of Sunday to see if those guys could pull it off. It just doesn't matter. I mean, the biggest moment LIV has had besides signing players was Anthony Kim winning. It was like this organic, genuine, this guy overcoming the addiction and doing that. And that had nothing to do with money. This was a guy that was just kind of done. And I just think that it's a good lesson. Part of the reason that sports fans exist and we pay attention to this stuff is the context and the history of the leagues, right? If you win the Stanley Cup, how important that is carrying that thing around. There is an understanding. There's no understanding with any of this. Well, John, everyone had to start once upon a time. Well, yeah, all these sports started a long time ago. Michigan and Ohio State have been playing for 100 years. Duke and North Carolina have been playing for a long fucking time. When I watched the Yankees, I know Babe Ruth was on the team in the 1920s, So that's LIV's existed. They give out some fake trophy and it just means nothing. So I can't speak to the exact allocations and the reasoning. Everyone is confident that no one actually knows, beside the fact that this never made any sense. And if you are going to look at the books, this would be one of the first things that you cut. This is a pretty easy one. In my business, right? You see a lot of television shows or radio shows when they get canceled. The reason most of them typically get canceled is, let's just pick a number. Let's say you're investing $2 million in the show, meaning the salaries, the production costs or whatever, and you're making $800,000. Well, after a couple years, you go, this show's got no traction and we're losing money every single year. That doesn't pencil. And I would say nothing in my life when it comes to sports has ever penciled less than LIV Golf. Not even close, honestly. Today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, the official sportsbook partner of the Orlando Magic. And speaking of the Magic, they're back in the NBA playoffs where the lights are brighter, pressure is higher, and every possession matters. With win or go home game energy on the hardwood, I love building the same game parlay. I might have been riding the Nuggets a little too hard because it feels like the wheels are falling off. My guy Jokic is not playing well. I have them to win the title. Little future bet, not looking good. But the easiest way to get it back, make a couple same-game parlays, try to ride the Knicks, see if they can battle back from being down 2-1. So if you're ever late to tip off, do not worry. Hard Rock Bet lets you live bet every single game. Try your first bet on Hard Rock Bet today and score 150 in bonus bets. If you win, just place a $5 bet. If it hits, you not only get your winnings, but you also get 150 in bonus bets. And sure, Hard Rock Bet is Florida's only legal sports book, but you don't have to be in Florida to join the party. They're also in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today and get in on the party, baby. Let's get to the Zurich, where a couple years ago, Lowry and Rory won, and it was cool. These two childhood friends from Ireland. It was an awesome moment. They won it on 18. Maybe they went to extra holes. I can't remember exactly. It was cool. They have a karaoke after. There was nothing like this. Where Matt Fitzpatrick, who is clearly one of the best players right now in the world, who is scolding hot. He finished second at the Players. He won Valspar. Honestly, he's a bad Thursday away from, probably finishing top 5 or 6 at the Masters. He finished T18. He won Harbour Town, where he took down Scottie in extra holes. And then he wins with his brother after hitting one of the most clutch bunker shots you'll ever see on 18 to give his brother a tap in. Which, if you're listening to this, you probably know his brother is now on the PGA Tour. And this isn't some, handout free PGA Tour card going around. His brother won on the DP World Tour within the last 6 weeks in India. He was a 4-year player at Wake Forest. Cam Young played there. Zalatoris played there. That's a real program. This guy's a real player. Watched him with his brother. This guy's a legitimate pro golfer. But it's really difficult to get a PGA Tour card. And, if he continued to have success on the DP World Tour, I think the top 10 guys get a tour card. But you win this event. You had to win this event. There's not top 3 or 4 guys. You have to win this event. Obviously, it doesn't matter for Fitzpatrick. But when he tapped in and his brother, the emotion he had, again, this is the Anthony Kim thing. There was a genuine, organic, really, really cool moment. Then you factor in their 2 brothers. And they had a huge lead going into Sunday. I don't want to say imploding, but they were definitely falling apart. I think they doubled 12. They bogeyed 14. They were tied for the lead on the back 9. Fitzpatrick missed a couple putts. Alex, the brother, had one of the great kind of flop shot D-cells on 13 you'll ever see to give Matt not an easy par putt, but one that was makeable, which he made. It was an unreal, honestly, was probably better than the Fitzpatrick bunker shot. So when he gets his PGA Tour card, he's playing this week. I think it gets into the PGA, the Open, and the Players. I'm not sure about them. I don't think he gets into the Masters. But how cool would that be? That you get to win an event with your brother that solidifies his status on the tour that you play on. Where I would imagine for a long time, and I watched the press conference after, one thing Alex said that, part of being me is always getting asked about Matt. How's Matt doing? How's his game? What's it looking like? How do you like him for the Masters? How's he looking going into the major season? That was really cool to watch Matt win so-and-so tournament. That was, God, Matt almost had the Players. And now you can shake that a little bit, people hey, you're on the PGA Tour too. You can be your own guy. I've always thought, it's not an enviable situation. Obviously, when your parents or some of these famous, Tom Brady's kids or Michael Jordan's kids, that's a tough position to be in. Now, they get a lot of benefits. They get to start on third base financially for sure. But there is anyone listening that knows a kid whose dad is a very, very successful person, they are typically the alpha in the room. And the kids just kind of follow his lead. And it's hard to break off from that. When it's a brother situation, especially when it's one thing if Alex Fitzpatrick was working at Goldman Sachs or had his own HVAC, just lived his own life, right? No, he's trying to be a professional golfer too. And his brother is taking down Scottie Scheffler in extra holes. It's like, that's not a former major champion, a guy that's going to be favored going into all these majors. And to kind of become your own guy, grind your ass off. And Matt said in the press conference that, he's like, we don't really play much anymore, right? Our schedules are way off. He's in Europe playing on the DP World Tour. We definitely never play competitive golf with each other because we're never in the same events. And if we are, we're definitely not paired together. He's like, I was blown away by his improvement, watching him up close because they go best ball 2 of the days and alternate shot 2 of the days. And he's like, this guy's a legit pro. And I watched him thinking like, he's pretty genuine saying this. And if you watch those two guys play on Sunday and on Saturday, like Alex was carrying his weight. This wasn't one of those situations like if you put me or you with some +5 handicap and that guy's probably going to carry us throughout the day. Alex is legit. And it's got to be one of the better brother combinations in the history of the sport. We've seen it. The Mannings, the Watts, like this is really, really impressive. Like his parents should be really, really proud. Let's dive into Doral this weekend. A tournament that has not happened since 2016. From 1962 to 2016 they played there. And I was reading Sobel's article today. It went under renovation in 2014. Now, I can barely remember 5 years ago, let alone some events in like 2014, 15 at Doral. But I've watched enough guys on YouTube Golf play this course. It looks really hard. And one thing I noticed in both the times, Evan Thompson was one of the guys on YouTube, and I forget the other guy. The wind was pumping. It is also, depending on how they play the tees, going to be the longest or one of the longest tournaments they play all season long. It's like 7,700 yards. So you first go long hitter. And you look at the last 2 winners in 2016 and 2015 were Adam Scott and Dustin Johnson. So this is an immediate, you got to hit the ball long. Like I don't like Russell Henley in this event. I don't like taking a flyer on Joel Damon in this event. This is a big boy course. Now, Rory's not there. Xander's not there. Ludwig's not there. Some guys that's games would have a very good chance to translate or not even playing. So Scottie's the heavy, heavy favorite. But yeah, like it's not that fun to take Scottie Scheffler 3-1. Get -150 top 10 odds. Like I'm not doing that. Now, not saying I won't for some of these majors coming up, but not this week. And I also think it's hard. It's the ebb and flow of this season feels a little weird right now. I don't feel comfortable like taking one of these guys to win, but I would say Cam Young +125. This is all on Hard Rock Bet, and Jake Knapp +250 to top 10. Those are auto hammers for me. Both guys super long, having great seasons, come in with a ton of momentum. So if you want to take Cam Young, I think it's like 13-1 to win. No issue with that. But I think +125 auto hammer. I already got a wager on him for the PGA in a couple weeks. I think I got him at 22-1. He's auto hammer all the majors this year. But Cam Young +125 top 10. Jake Knapp, better odds, +250 auto hammer. Another guy I'm going to get a little conservative with. If you want to take him top 10, no issue. If you want to get really aggressive top 5, don't totally hate it. But if you can get Hard Rock Bet is +165 for Gary Woodland, who is playing out of his mind. Ever since he went on the Golf Channel and talked about his PTSD and his issues with the surgery, dude's been balling. Honestly, I watched him at the Masters. He was playing really well until he kind of fell apart on Saturday. Gary Woodland +165, top 20. I'm going with it. If I was going to take a little flyer on a guy to win with some sexy odds, Florida golf, I've never played it, but clearly it's a lot different for some of these guys that come from Dallas, come from Scottsdale, come from Vegas. Keegan Bradley has lived in Florida for like 15 plus years. So this is a guy who's played this course, who's comfortable on the grass, who hits the ball more than far enough. 60-1 as a little bit of a flyer. Don't hate it. 5-1 to top 10. Don't hate that one either. So my auto hammers, 2 top 10s, Cam Young, Jake Knapp, top 20, Gary Woodland, and a little bit of a winner flyer, Keegan Bradley, 60-1. Let's just bang out some mailbag questions. I looked on the Instagram. I don't go to it enough, but I'm going to definitely try to more often now. At GoLowPod is the Instagram. Fire in the DMs. Questions answered here. We will start with Jamal. If Tiger currently had 19 majors instead of 15, do you think he would have retired from pro golf? Is trying to break the record for most majors the reason he still plays at 50? I don't think it is at all. I think the reason he is, clearly addicted to pills that help his pain go away so he can work out and play golf is he's addicted to playing golf and working out. I think he would still, at 50 years old, play golf, practice at golf, try to get his body in a good enough shape to play any major tournament because he's a golf addict. And unlike football or basketball, like in theory, you can keep playing golf. Jack won a major at 45. Phil won one at 50. If Tiger had never gotten a car accident and messed up his ankle, I think there's a pretty good chance he wins another major. But I think he's kind of come to terms. He's never going to win another major. And now that he's in rehab, who knows how this, I think he just likes, like, it's all he's ever done. It's who it's like inside his soul. That's what makes him go. And I think working out has become that as well, right? I think those are just like, beside Charlie and Sam, his kids, and his new girl, which you never know, a Tiger can have a new girlfriend at any moment. So I would, if you said, would you give Trump's ex and Tiger over under another year dating? I'd probably take the under. But I definitely just think it has nothing to do with money, with majors. I think it's just all he knows. It's all he knows. And for most of us, there's some balance in your life, even if you are addictive personality and love doing whatever you're doing professionally, or you have personal hobbies that you love, rock climbing or whatever it may be. I think it runs so much deeper than that with Tiger. I think it's his entire identity. And I totally understand why. I was watching the Elvis documentary a couple days. Really, I watched it over a couple day period. But like Tiger was addicted to pills. You could see it on his face. But like performing and singing and playing live, like that's who he was. He was a performer until he died. Like he was playing 3 times a week, sometimes like multiple times a day, because that's just, by that point in time, he was filthy rich. It's just like that fills his cup. And I think Tiger, with a golf club on his hand at a golf course practicing, like he's a notorious practicer. Like I would imagine if you ask Peyton and Tom and Drew what they miss the most, I bet it's not like throwing a touchdown pass in the red zone. I bet it's like, you know what? I missed Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the game planning, the preparation, the getting with my quarterback coach and OC and building the game plan and working through it throughout the week. Like I think Tiger loved the fucking grind. His Hall of Fame speech was really, really good. And the thing that I'll never forget from that speech was like, the thing with golf is sometimes you just got to dig it out from the mud, dig it out from the dirt, I think was his exact words. I think he loved that. Just figuring it out, grinding it. I mean, he was notorious for having like, get up at 6 a.m., work out, eat, hit balls, putt, eat, play, work out again, hit some more balls, play basketball, go to bed. I mean, that was like the defining, Tiger's obviously defined by his winning. I think what goes hand in hand with that was like all-time grinder on and off the field. What do you have to say for your DeChambeau prediction? I think one of the things he's going to have to improve in order to win at Augusta is attitude. Every time he doesn't do well, either has a sad puppy dog look on his face or he makes excuses. What are your thoughts? I would say he's the number one front runner in golf. When things are going well, he's like a gladiator out there, pumping up the crowd. He's got like this Arnold Palmer, Lee Trevino talking to kids, high-fiving. He's the life of the fucking party. He starts going the other way. That baby draw turns into a hook, and he's screaming at the ball. He's pouting. He is, if things go bad, they go really bad. So I don't even think it's just Augusta. He's just a very fickle player When things are on, he's on. When they're off, it's a nightmare. So, and I don't think, Bryson's not 22. You're talking about, what was Bryson, 30 years old, 31 years old? Like, I don't know how much his attitude is changing moving forward. I think he kind of is what he is. Probably never pick him to win Augusta again. That was my bad. Do I think he could one day? Yes. One thing that's pretty clear at Augusta, it takes touch. And one underrated part about Rory in this second iteration of his stardom over the last 3 or 4 years, he's improved dramatically with a wedge in his hand, and he has a ton of touch. I wouldn't call him Phil Mickelson. I wouldn't call him Tiger in his prime. I wouldn't even say Scottie, but he's pretty good. And you watch Bryson, there's just the power game. The clubs are all the same length. So the attitude, you're 100% right. He's not one of those guys. I remember, was it like Steve Elkington or someone said years ago, I think this might have been after his injury, so it might have been 21 or 22. Tiger got a 10 on the par 3 12th at Augusta. He then birdied 5 of the last 6 holes. And he's like, nothing. No stretch of golf defines Tiger Woods more than that. He just got a 10. He was out of the tournament before he even got the 10. He was just playing for pride. And he could just lock in and just the laser focus. I think Scottie's really good at staying focused. Bryson's just not. And the rail, he can just, train can come off the tracks fast. I get that tracking a golf ball isn't easy, but CBS camera coverage at the Masters has been rough, to say the least. That said, I have always thought they were the gold standard of golf coverage. Curious. We can use 2 questions. Do you see Kisner shit on the Masters and then walk it back? Do you think that was his partners at the Golf Channel telling him to do, or the high ups at Augusta? Side note, he totally nailed it. I thought that was one of the more raw and more authentic moments in the history of golf media. Because this guy, who's never sat on the other side, has always been a player. As a player, you don't really know what's going on. You're not, during Augusta, if you're playing in the tournament, you're not paying attention to golf trackers and shots. Now, for us, the viewer, we don't really know how behind they were. But he, as he said, I'm doing radio, and I look, I'm like, this is insane. He kind of let the cat out of the bag. And CBS, a couple of their cameramen were kicked off the crew for reselling their tickets. I guess CBS crew members get free tickets. Clearly, you're not allowed to resell them. Kind of understand. I mean, you're not talking about these aren't multimillionaires. They're probably like, I could make however much, thousands of dollars reselling these tickets. Don't blame them. But Augusta don't play that. And that's where I think you get to Kisner. I think Kisner was raw, real, and thought like, this is a joke. But Augusta doesn't mess around. And while he doesn't work for CBS, I could see NBC. I could see Augusta calling NBC, CBS, and potentially Kevin Kisner directly. He lives in Georgia. He went to Georgia, and I've watched some clips with him and Riggs. He plays Augusta, like as he should. He's a PGA guy, lives there. Sure, he's got friends that are members. That, even though it was CBS's fault, not Augusta's, that does make the Masters look bad. And they don't allow that. It's just not going to be tolerated. So if I was a betting man, whether it was direct or indirect, I think that came from Augusta. That you gotta walk this back. This is, you can't say that. And it's not worth it to him to totally shit on CBS if it's going to make Augusta mad, which is a place where I would imagine he wants to go and hang out and will keep going. But do I think that he walked it back because CBS reached out to NBC? No. Could I see NBC, even though they don't have the Masters, they probably have a good relationship, maybe some executives either are members there or close, that potentially for sure. But if I was a betting man, I would say Augusta. Might have just reached out directly to him. Even though Rory's final shot on 18 from the trees, we didn't know where the ball could have gone fucking out of bounds. He could have hit it to Athens. We had no clue. And I didn't notice this in real time, but I guess you didn't even see the ball go in the hole. The angle, I mean, it was an embarrassing performance by CBS, which I think they got a tongue lashing from Augusta, I'm sure, that this will never be tolerated again. My wife and I are considering going on a trip in early June, and Phoenix is on the list. Looking to golf and also have something for her to do like a spa. I don't mind the heat for golf like you, but was wondering if going at that time would be worth it weather-wise, or going later in the year like October would be more enjoyable. Or there's a spot you'd recommend that time of year. I would say October would be ideal, especially if it's 30 degrees where you're living in Indy. It could be 80 degrees here. June can be hit or miss. Like, you're not guaranteed to get 115 degrees. It could be 97, right? But it also could be 110. So the one difference of going in June and October, you could play TPC Scottsdale, you could play Greyhawk, you could play any of the sweet public courses for way cheaper. I mean, you're talking $150. Where you come in October, you're talking $500. So part of summer golf in Arizona that has a ton of elite public courses, you play for cheap. So I don't mind the heat. It's just somewhat of a coin flip. You could easily have a 97-degree day, which is hot all over the country. You could also have a 110-degree day. I mean, today it's like 78, 80 degrees. It's perfect. I might go hit some balls later tonight. But yeah, I would do the summer. It gets a lot more expensive for everything you're doing. It's just a lot cheaper around here, a little more mellow around here if you're coming to Scottsdale in June. I always love this. Shows you how many retired rich people there are. It's like everyone gets out of town in June, July, and August. Do they have to work? Like, do they have to? They can just leave. It's like they just go to their house up in the mountains somewhere. Like, well, those people either own the company or don't do anything. Because even me, I obviously I can record from other places, but like sometimes I just can't leave forever. Like, yeah, these guys just take off for like 4 months. Snowbirds. I honestly had never heard of that term before moving here. Oh, the snowbirds. They're here from October, to late May, early April, and then they're gone. Must be nice. There's a Ryder Cup question. I think I got this question before. Who do you think the captain will be? Could we run it back with Keegan? I would imagine Keegan just said, no, I'm not. I want to play on the team. I'm not going to do it. He probably feels pretty embarrassed. I think it's, looking back, probably pretty unfair to try to do what they did. Ask a current player whose entire aspirations are to play on the team. He was justified to be on the team last year, but didn't take himself, which was the right move. And then obviously everything that went down. So maybe he wouldn't have got a little over his head. I think Keegan will get the job again when he's like 50 years old. But, Jim Furyk's kind of the safe one. I personally, I'd mix that shit up. I'd call Phil. I'd say, let's. Tiger just doesn't want to do it, and now he wouldn't do it. But I thought Keegan made it way more interesting. Like Jim Furyk, it's so boring. And I respect the hell out of Jim Furyk, but that's pretty boring. I'm listening to your Masters recap. Not sure if you touched on it, but Rory was allowed to play Augusta for 3 straight weeks. So many of his tee shots have to be so daunting. How much better must he feel standing over the ball opposed to other guys on the tee? He was able to take those 8 or 9 times the last couple weeks. I tend to overswing a little free at my home course, which Rory called Augusta after winning. They got to do something right. Well, one, he's a former champion. You're a former champion. You can go whenever you want. All these other guys are allowed access to the course. Like if Xander, if Tommy Fleetwood, if Bryson, if these guys want to go play Augusta, they can go play Augusta. Plus, this is the one major where they play every single year. So, how many times has Jordan Spieth played Augusta in his life? How many times has Justin Thomas or Tommy Fleetwood or Hideki or these guys at this point in time? Hideki, same thing. He's a former champion. Go whenever he wants. They play this course every single year. So I disagree. one, I don't even think it's controversial. All these guys play it before. And two, all these guys have played it a million times. So I push back on that. Where does Rory rank all time? Well, I think you have a clear kind of top tier, and that's like Tiger, Jack, Ben Hogan, kind of that crew. And then you have this group of just Tom Watson, Gary Player, Lee Trevino, Nick Faldo, Phil Mickelson. I think Rory is smack dab in that. The difference is, I think when it's all said and done, I think there's a chance Rory could be considered. Again, it's Ben Hogan. If I just went on like Arnold Palmer, Jack on, I think Rory's got a chance to be known as like the third best golfer of all time. He's never catching Jack or Tiger, but like, why couldn't he win 10 or 11 majors? He's got 6. He's playing the best golf of his career. He's in great shape. He's in his mid-30s. To me, if he gets to 10 plus, I think he would be considered the third best golfer of all time. So I would say right now he's in that tier of like 4 to 10. I think even like historians like Brandel would agree, right? It's like, if I had to do an NFL comp for Rory right now, it'd probably be like Mahomes. Like, he's kind of still in the prime of his career. You know, I don't know where he ranks, but he's already ranks really high, and he's got a chance to solidify himself. Like, he could pass Joe Montana. And at worst, he could be considered the third best quarterback of all time. He's already got more Super Bowls than Peyton Manning. He's got more Super Bowls than John Elway. Right? So Rory, I think Trevino has 6. Phil has 6. I think that's kind of the crew he's in right now, which I would consider Phil like a top 5 or 6 golfer of all time. And I say him and Rory are pretty equal. Now, the difference is, and Rory's a little bit like this too. I think if you play Phil's career out 10 times, most of the times Phil ends up with like 9 or 10 majors. I mean, he's finished second a million times. Now, so is Rory. Like, Rory has 6. He easily could have 8 or 9 right now. Should have won at Pinehurst. Probably should have won at LA Country Club. Definitely could have won the Open the year Cam Smith won it. So if you just give him one of those, he'd have 7. And I think it'd be a little different animal. He's just won back-to-back Masters. You know, a little like Tiger and Phil. Like, how many times are Rory going to win the Masters? Because if you put the over-under, what we set the over-under at right now? Like 1.5? He's definitely going to win it again. Good question. Is golf the hardest pro sport to play in terms of mental strength? Watching the Masters, I can't help but think about the pressure in each shot. How much I get the yips, even just golfing by myself. The individual aspect, combined with the time between shots to think about good and bad. I just can't think of any other sport or position that is that hard in terms of mental strength. I think it has a lot of parallels to kicking. The difference is, as a kicker, you know, the most pressure for a kicker is usually at the end of the game, but maybe throughout the game you have a couple other kicks. In golf, you're hitting a shot every 5-10 minutes, right? Depending, could be a little more around the green. There's just nothing like, the majority of your time is spent in between shots. And it's not like football where everything's kind of rapid fire. It's like play here, 40 seconds later, another play. And things just go off the rails. I just think it's very unique that way. I would say it's near the top of no sport you can overthink more. Because in basketball, you got a guy ahead of you, right? In football, you have a guy on the other side of you. In baseball, you either the batter and the pitcher going up against each other, and then everyone in the field is trying to get the ball. In golf, the ball's not moving. So you have something that is stagnant, just sitting there, that you control everything. And then there's just an element of there's a lot of luck. Even when you hit great shots, you get a shitty kick. You're in a divot. You get a shitty lie. You know, I mean, there's just nothing quite like it. It is. I don't know if I listen. I love it. I don't know if it's like somewhere between an activity and a sport, because you got to be athletic to be good at it. But it's not like most of like tennis. You have to be way more athletic to compete at the highest levels, right? You meet a college if you and I just went to the University of Texas or the University of Florida or the USC and just got their top tennis player and their top golfer, like the tennis player is going to be a better athlete. But you have to be athletic, especially in this day and age where you're hitting the ball far. Like if you see like Dustin Johnson or even Bryson, Scottie, I mean, these guys are big guys. We'll end on this. Are you a big food at the turn guy when you are golfing, or do you bring your own food? I try to eat healthy, so I stay away from hot dogs and snacks while I play. I don't bring my own food. You know, I I will just not eat when I'm there. So if I'm not eating, like if I go play TPC with some buddies on a Saturday, I will usually just eat before I go. Or maybe like on my way, I got this like juice bar, has like Aussie bowls and smoothies. Maybe I'll get a smoothie if I'm trying to be healthy. Now, I mean, if you're teeing off at 1 and maybe you got a transfusion, uh, you get by. I haven't had a hot dog at the golf course in a while. But one thing I'll do is I'll get like probably not. Sometimes I'll just get like a Snickers bar if I just need some food, and if I haven't eaten breakfast, if I'm fasting that day, I just need something in me. But a lot of times I just won't eat, right? Instead of getting a hot dog. But I mean, also I've probably had 1,000 hot dogs in my life, so it's hard to beat a good hot dog, honestly. But I'm also not like I won't go cheeseburger or quesadilla or something like that at the turn. I think I just if I'm gonna go with something, I'm going dog, or I'm just going like Powerade Zero and like a peanut bar or something. So I would probably tend to do that, or just the hot dog. The one thing with the hot dog, which probably not the best thing for you, if you're just starving, like 4 bites, it's in you, and you're just off and running. The one hack that I have is I walk a lot. So if I'm going to play, even with buddies, money games, like I try if unless it's like 110 degrees, anywhere between like 70 to like 105, I'm walking. Now, sometimes I like hop in the cart on a hole or whatever, but a little more justified to power down a dog. Also, like sometimes a dog just hits. Like there's no denying it. A good dog, even if you are a health nut, sometimes just kind of reminds you of your childhood. You just eating hot dogs like with friends and family at barbecues and birthday parties and shit. I've never, obviously, you can have the hot dogs at the Coliseum where the Raiders used to play. Worst hot dog of all time. So it's like that. It wasn't very good. But a good dog, like the Dodger dog. I went to a Dodger game one time, got a Dodger dog. They're pretty bum. They're pretty good. The food at where the Cardinals play, I've never been to a game there, but I've been to a couple concerts. Awful. I mean, embarrassingly bad. How terrible the food there is. But if you go to the right golf course and they make their hot dog well, I'm a big believer if you go, especially if you got an early tee time, there's nothing better than a golf course that has a great breakfast sandwich. It's, you're eating eggs, ham, maybe on a either a bagel or English muffin. Nothing hits the spot quite like that at a golf course. You get that in there, then you're off and running. Problem is if the booze starts, you're just naturally going to get hungry and your discipline dwindles for sure. Adios. Have a great day. And we'll be back with the football pod tomorrow.